Alright, welcome back folks. Today we're going to check out some more hybrid picking licks. We're going to check out a few from the track you just heard, mainly focusing on sort of how to utilize arpeggios with hybrid picking sort of through scale shapes, and then a couple other sort of things that are a little easier. So we'll start off with kind of the first most obvious lick, which is like a pedal tone thing. That you kind of hear in a lot of like 80s pop solos. So something like this. It's a really cool way to climb up the scale. So essentially what we're doing is we're just picking two strings, adjacent strings, and we're pedaling off of one note. So let's say we're playing in B minor. We're going to pick that 7th fret of the B as our bass note. And then we're going to bar across to the E string also on the 7th fret and pick back and forth between those two strings using the pick on the B and our middle finger on the E. So that's the basic mechanics of the right hand. And then with the left hand, you're just going to walk up the scale. So in this case, you'd go up to the 9th fret and the 10th fret, alternating back and forth between that pedal tone on the B string, like this. So you can sustain them so that they kind of run into each other and interact harmonically. And you get sort of a double stop effect with that. Or you can try and mute them and isolate them a little more by rocking your finger. It's a little trickier. I usually just palm mute a little bit and that helps. Cool, and so you can use that in a bunch of different ways. It's a pretty straight ahead lick. One thing I like to do with that also is like add some slides in, like this, back to that same B minor thing. We're doing that same walk up from the 7th, 9th, and 10th on the E string, pedaling off of that, what note is that, F sharp on the 7th fret of the B. Then doing that little half step slide into the 9th fret on the E, and then back down out of that 8th fret. It's kind of like the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. So little half step slides like that are cool to also include in this. All right, so let's move on to the next lick, which I think was something like this. Basically, this is just like a bunch of 4-note arpeggios that are just sort of strung together in a linear fashion. The easiest way to think about this is that you're playing a scale and skipping every other note. And this is I kind of borrowed this from a really good guitar player named Wes Hotch, but he picks it all, which is insane. So let's look at it over B minor. This other one's kind of tricky. So we're basically just going to run 4-note arpeggios. So there's your B minor, starting on the root, 3rd, 5th, and then the 7th. So each one of those triads is going to get a color tone. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing a hammer on, and then I'm sort of banjo rolling across the next two notes with my middle finger and ring finger on my right hand. So that would be like 7th fret B, 10th fret D, and then F sharp on the 9th fret of the A, and then A on the 7th fret of the D. And so then that's pick, middle finger, ring finger. If you want to be fancy, you can pick them all. It's a little more percussive, but not necessary. I don't find that it flows quite as nicely if I'm picking every single note for this sort of thing. Then the next little section would just be starting from the 2nd note you played, which was... So then you're basically playing the relative major arpeggio of that chord you just played. So then that's just like a major 7 arpeggio essentially. So like a 10th fret on the E. So D, F sharp, A, and then C sharp, being dumb. So those are the first two. So basically just follow that formula all the way up the scale. So just if it helps, like map out the B minor scale or whatever scale you're using, you even just write it down. You can even use a C scale, it's the easiest one, and just skip every other note and find where that lies. So for a C major, it'd be like this, starting on G, just so you have like a nice range to it. And then you can do the same pattern going back down, which is a little trickier. Yeah, you can also use this concept kind of in chunks. It doesn't have to be linear across one position. You can kind of like select little arpeggios, but the basic principle holds true. So like if I'm playing an E minor, I could play like this C major, then move up to this G major, and this D major. And there's no real rules about which notes you select. It's basically just the principle of the physics, and it's an interesting way to get some wider interval stuff. Okay, so then finally, the other thing I wanted to touch on was this sort of Greg Howe inspired thing, which was just a mostly kind of a legato idea. So in B minor, we're hitting that sharp 11 there. So we're doing C sharp, D, E, and then F. And then going up to the major 7 of B minor, A sharp, whatever you want to call it. And part of the trick to this is to use muting to add some percussive quality. So you're picking the first note and then sort of muting and then using your finger to pluck the next note down. And the next thing I did was apply this kind of just diatonically up the neck. So it's kind of walking up, grabbing that note on the next string with your finger, then picking on your way back down to the same spot. So for B minor, we could try this little lick out. We'll do 7th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, and then 7th fret of the E, and then walk it back down. And if you want to pick it all out, that's fine too. That's just another sound. It's not really what I'm going for though. I'm going for that smooth legato sound. So yeah. You can kind of use the same concept to kind of selectively skip strings. You just have to use your imagination and sort of the scales you already know and work with that. And then last, this is the last one we'll do. It's I call it double picking. So it's where I'm going middle finger, pick, pull off. So just practice that on a blues scale, going just 2 note groups. Just doesn't really matter what notes, it's just the physics of what you're doing with your right hand. So middle finger, pick, pull off. So then what I'm doing to make this interesting is I'm adding another note. So it's kind of like groups of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then you land on another note on the next string up. So then the next thing, you can kind of add more notes to it. So I think in the song I did something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So an 8 note group. So I'm just walking down the blues scale. We're double picking this E on the 12th fret of the E, pulling it off to the 7th fret, which is B, grabbing that dominant 7 on the 10th fret of the B, then tracing our way back up to that B again, and then doing a pull off on the B string from the 10th fret to the 7th fret, and then landing on E on the 9th fret of the G. So double pick, pick, middle finger, pick, pull off, pick. Yeah, so I find that to be useful. I really like it if you take that same shape and just move it up a group of strings starting on the B. So you get that flat 5 in there, it's real evil sounding. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed that. And tune in next time. I'll break down some more hybrid picking stuff. Sort of the combinations of what you can do are limitless, really. It's really good for wide interval scale playing. So tune in next time and we'll have some more fun.